Can we have an honorary moment for the top? Can we get into the threads, honey? This top is so cute. But on that note, welcome to Legendary Chats with Legendary Liz. Legendary Chats with Legendary. Hey. Thank you guys for rocking with me. The real reason we're here, aside from getting into my top and dancing, is to talk about outgrowing your friends. For this reason, I think it's important that we talk about 5 things that you should not do when you are outgrowing your friends. This topic is inspired by personal experience, observation, and just a desire for us to have healthier friendships and not misconstrue what it means to have boundaries. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what I'm saying, we're gonna get into it, and hopefully by the end of the video, you're gonna know what I'm saying. So let's get started. Tip number 1, the first thing not to do is let your ego get out of control. Yes, I'm talking to old me. And still sometimes me, you know, we're a work in progress, but one of the things I noticed during the incipient stages of my growth spurt is that I started thinking I was better than my friends, because here I am, little Miss Healing, journaling, going to therapy and doing deep breathing. And oh, look at my friend over there. She doesn't journal and she's busy partying, ignoring her feelings, and she's over there being toxic. So I feel like I started really becoming egotistical and looking down on my friends. And that's not cool. And one of the main reasons it's not cool is just because you are outgrowing your friend in this season, it doesn't mean in the next season they're not going to outgrow you. We all grow at different paces. This is not a growth competition. And you know, you cannot look down on somebody just because their timing in terms of their growth is different than yours. So I had to learn to put my ego to the side and remember I'm not better than anybody else just because I'm working on myself and I'm growing and I'm developing. Everybody is valuable, lovable in whatever state they are. If you too toxic, I might decide I don't want to love you, but I'm sure somebody else will. But the point still remains that we are all valuable, no matter what stage we're at in our growth. So that said, don't do that. Keep your ego in check. Second thing to avoid when you're outgrowing your friends is just cutting people off unnecessarily. Yes, there are circumstances where some people need to get cut off, but I think this generation is obsessed with cutting people off. I'm growing, so you can't be my friend no more. I gotta block you and delete you. You get the point. Not everybody needs to be cut off. I personally realized that, so I'm talking to myself. Once again, I realized that when I started growing, I thought, oh yeah, now that I'm growing, I have to get rid of my friends and I have to get some new ones. And in some cases, that's true. In other cases, it's just not. When I did more digging, because I feel like when you do a lot of self-reflecting to try to understand your behaviors and your impulses, you learn a lot about yourself. So I started looking into attachment styles. For those of you who don't know what attachment styles are, please do yourself a favor and go read up on them. My attachment style is a disorganized attachment style. And what that means is I have like a push and pull. And I want to be close to people, but I also want to push people away. I don't want to be abandoned, but I do a lot of abandoning. And this was showing up in my need to cut my friends off just because Elizabeth is growing. So that said, it is okay for you to remain friends with somebody even if you guys are on different pages. It just means the nature of your relationship might change. So for example, if you guys used to sit around and gossip together, you might have to find something else to bond about now. And also during this phase of growth, setting boundaries, and not the boundaries of cutting people off, except in some cases, is important. So it might be something like, hey, I'm not into gossiping about so-and-so right now, but let's talk about how you're doing, right? Just a cute little kind segue into something else, can be better than just cutting people off cold turkey. And also, again, remember things are in season. So you may not be on the same page now, but you might be later. So let your friendship naturally progress in whatever way that it might. Third thing not to do when you're outgrowing someone is gossiping about them to make yourself feel better. Yes, I'm talking about that group chat message that says, I can't believe that I went to hot yoga today and Jessica was over there scrubbing on somebody else's man. Some people just need to grow up and will never change and blah, 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 blah. We know that you're growing and that's amazing, but there's no need to start gossiping about your friend, being overly critical and putting them down. If truly we are growing, a testament of that is our ability to love somebody through their imperfections and not judge them and feel the need to belittle them or put them down because they're not growing at the same pace as us. We can hold space for them being where they are and us being where we are. So talking to myself as well, I had to stop doing that and stop comparing myself to the person who was not growing at the pace that I was to make myself feel better. And I realized in reflecting on why I was doing that, it's because I still felt inadequate and insecure about myself, and I needed to gossip about someone else to make myself feel better. So again, no judgment, but it is something to address, to think about, and to pay attention to. Fourth thing to avoid when outgrowing your friends is trying to force people to change. I get it. You know, when I am growing, I want my friends to grow too, because I love my friends and I want them to get the best out of life. I want them to heal. I want them to feel whole. And I want them to feel all the good things that I'm feeling too. But guess what? They may not be ready to start journaling or going to therapy or letting go of that toxic relationship, or they might not be ready to stop self-sabotaging and doing things that are harming themselves and whatever else we think they shouldn't be doing, right? It's really important for you to respect that and also to have boundaries, because sometimes in trying to push people to grow and to change, we're actually overstepping our boundary and we're not respecting where they are and meeting them where they're at. This is your reminder again, just because you're growing, it doesn't mean that somebody else is ready to grow. And it also doesn't mean that you get to judge them because they're not at the stage where they're ready to grow yet. Of course, encourage your friends. Of course, push them in a healthy manner. But if they're not ready, they're just not ready. And what you may find again is that you're slowly drifting apart, or that, you know, you're just not interacting as much. But it's just not your place to try to force anybody to change, including your friends. The fifth and final thing to avoid when you're outgrowing your friends is being afraid to let go of the friendship. This has been my greatest source of grief, beloved. Friendships ending. It has been so hard for me, and sometimes it still is, for so many reasons, but mostly because I love my friends so deeply. And also, to be honest, because of my issues around abandonment. But sometimes after doing step 1 to 4, or rather tip 1 to 4 that I mentioned, you realize that it's really time to let the friendship go. You know, you have not judged them. You are not trying to force them to grow. You're loving them where they're at. You're not cutting them off, but they're hurting you, or they're extremely toxic, or they're holding you back from where you need to go in terms of your next level. So in those scenarios, you may need to let your friend go, and it can be painful. Here's a reminder as well that it's okay to grieve a friendship ending. We often emphasize grief around somebody dying, but it could also be necessary when a friendship ends too, because that's somebody you love, that's a relationship that was important to you, and it essentially dies or ends. So grieve your friendship ending if that's what you need to do. And, you know, if you've held space for them and it's just not working, then it might be time to let it go. Those are all my tips. I just want to say friendships in this season of my life are one of my greatest sources of joy. I have been nurturing my friendships. I finally have gotten back to a point where I see the value in relationships, because my trauma had me so in the sunken place that I just didn't see value in relationships, because all I could think about when I thought about relationships was pain and hurt. But now that I am in a better place on my healing journey, and that I have a better relationship with myself, I'm able to extend that to other people and also pour into people who love me deeply and who I love and who show up for me and also meet my needs in different ways, because one friend is not going to do everything for you, right? But that said, you know, think about that during your growing season. Think about that going into the new year. And yeah, thank you for rocking with me. Until next time.